Hey everyone, another episode of BTP Daily, and what a mess the Ascenso MX is. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, of course, it's the Mexican second division as they get ready to define who is going to be the champion of the entire year. Of course, their tournament, very similar to Mexico's, as it's set up into two different championships, and the winner of the first one, which is the Apertura and the Clausura, which is the second, they're both facing off in home and away matchups. Now, here's a little caveat. What usually happens is that the winner of that tie ends up moving up to the first division in Mexico, ends up moving up to the Liga MX, as now Lobos Buap earned the spot, or didn't really willfully earn the spot, to be relegated into the second division once again. Now, here's the caveat. According to one of the spokesmen from Liga MX, the winner of this match is not going to move up to the first division because neither one of the two teams are satisfying the appropriate conditions for promotion. So, if you start looking down the list, well, you start to see who's going to be. And, of course, you start looking at teams like Celaya, maybe even Lobos Buap, but it's going to be Celaya based on the fact that you have a team that had the most points throughout the entire year. And that's the first one that you start looking at that is capable of satisfying all the conditions as far as the promotion to Liga MX is concerned. Now, I transfer it over, and I think I'm willing, and I guess desiring to kind of like light a flame, or at least throw a grenade and run away and start the conversation a little bit. For those of you that are in favor of promotion relegation in the United States, how many of those teams would be able and willing, actually willing pretty much everyone, but able to be checking all of those? Let's use the Liga MX standards as far as that's concerned. How many of those USL teams, how many of the, nearly defunct NASL, and even some of the third division teams, how many of those teams would be able to move up to the next level? From the third to second, and of course from the quote-unquote second division, and of course I use second and third divisions and first divisions a bit loosely when it comes to the United States, because they usually end up all being leagues that compete against each other, so really it's just, different leagues. But let's just stay within the parameters of the discussion. How many teams in the second division right now would be able to move up to the first division, but also satisfy the conditions for such a move? Again, that's something that not a lot of people talk about when it comes to promotion relegation. Are the teams in certain leagues structured in a way where they can make that move up? Of course, there's going to be, the first one that you think about is FC Cincinnati. They're a team that has a good solid base. They have a stadium set. They have a good foundation, absolutely. But look at how many exemptions that league had to have in order to be in second division. And, of course, everything else that happened. And I don't want to get into the specifics of that. And I know some people from USL will probably come after me and start criticizing me for what I'm saying. And that's another story for another time. But how many of those? How many from the other leagues as well? Let's not just, point at one league. Let's point at everything. Let's point at the entire structure, because it's not one league or two leagues that are having the problem. It's a series of leagues, and how they're both being administrated, but also how the teams have been structured where you really don't know, and that's been the huge problem with soccer in the United States, because you have 20 million people going in 20 million different directions looking to get to the same destination and seeing who gets it there first. And then once they get there first, they're going to be the ones that want to get the credit when the success starts coming along once again. That's the big problem when it comes to the game here in the United States. A lot of people want to get credit. A lot of people want to be that leader, that usher in that new era. And you really don't see that leadership translating into proper results as of yet. There's still just a lot of question marks, a lot of people that have been able to not answer questions, and that seems to be more worrying than the questions themselves. the big issue here is look at how many of those teams have been able to, and that's a huge component of promotion relegation. That's why promotion relegation in Mexico in some cases is looking to be dropped. You don't have enough teams in the lower levels that are financially stable or stable from an administrative standpoint. You know, you might have another investment group coming in and buying in and swooping in and buying your franchise and taking it somewhere else. And I mean, it sounds very similar to what's going on in the MLS with Columbus Crew. It's similar to what's going on, but the thing is, people don't have that cross-reference as to other leagues, and they don't see what's going on in Liga MX and use that as an example. What could go wrong in a promotion relegation setting that is not really well established? And also, there's different structures. I mean, we start looking at countries that have more of a club setting, a social, non-profit type of setting compared to a private franchise that is definitely exactly that, for profit. So we're looking at apples and oranges when sometimes we're looking at promotion relegation structures and how certain clubs are structured within those different types of settings. Football Club Barcelona, Real Madrid, it's a club with a social setting with different sets of owners, different sets of investors, different sets of individuals that vote in committees and boards, etc., etc. You know, I'm talking about in the case of Real Madrid, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's like over 500, you know, in clubs in Brazil and in Argentina, it's the members of the club that go in to be able to vote for their president and vote for different measures or vote for different actions to be set up. In MLS, that's not the case because it is a franchise setting and it's the investors that make the final decision. It's not the fans or the ticket holders that make those final decisions. It's not the club structure that way. So again, how many of those teams in those lower divisions in the United States would be able to make that jump? How many of those would be able to make that jump from second division to first? And I think that's a great topic of conversation based on the fact that the game is such a mess at the lower levels that a huge analysis has to be made, and also an even deeper look has to be able to be taken by the powers that be to truly see how strong the game is. Because MLS is earning millions and hundreds of millions, but yet some teams are incurring losses. And nobody talks about the losses. Nobody talks about what's going on. Now, at the lower levels, imagine the losses that are being incurred. But in some cases, they might be looked at as tax write-offs for some people. I don't know. I don't have those numbers. But I can surely tell you, if I'm rich and I have a club, or a franchise, I should say, and I'm getting losses, I'm going to find a way to make it a write-off. Because within tax structures in certain areas, it can be done. So it's time that we start looking at different topics within promotion relegation and not just saying that it's going to improve the game. How is it going to improve the game? Is it going to make teams financially stable? Ask what happened in Mexico. That's a very good point to be looking at if you're in favor of it, and also if you're against it, to see how you can improve it. Because at the end of the game, at the end of the day, what does everybody want to do? Everybody wants to see the game improve. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. I just want to ask a little favor before I go. Make sure that you subscribe and you also leave a review. 5 stars is great. 1 star is all right. You know, we're cool with it. But also make sure that you follow us on iTunes, that you subscribe to us on iTunes, Beyond the Pitch, as we continue giving you a lot of the best interviews, the best pundits, the best personalities that the world of football has to offer. Of course, Phil and I every week are giving you interviews with some of the best out there. This week, as I'm recording on April the 30th, I'm going to have Daguito Valdez, Cuban pundit, YouTube star in Cuba, and also a football analyst par excellence on YouTube. Also, Brent Sancho, former Trinidad International. He'll be talking to us about what's going on in the Caribbean as he also gets ready for World Cup coverage. And he'll talk to us a little bit in depth about what happened that fateful night in Cuba over in October, as he was there very up and close as far as what happened there. Lots of other guests that will be coming on as I look forward to giving you a lot more content on Beyond the Pitch. Also, check me out on YouTube. It's The Normal Juan. Thank you, everyone, for the name, as I really like it. I really dig it with the little Klopp reference there. Now I'll be starting to put a lot of content there and looking forward to this new era of content that I'm going to be sharing with you throughout various platforms. So make sure, BTP Daily. Also check out Beyond the Pitch. And also check me out on The Normal Juan. So I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Also follow me on Twitter, Juan_G_Arango, and on Instagram, Juan G Arango, all straight through.